Welcome, everybody, to the Tools for the Modern Man podcast. I'm your host, Pete Beskis, and it is a brand new year. It is the beginning of January. It is the first podcast of 2024. And I just wanted to wish each and every one of you out there a happy new year and a very prosperous one, full of health, wealth, and happiness. So, what is everybody doing the first part of January? I think we all know it's resolutions, it's goal setting, it's looking forward into our year. We've spent the last couple of weeks of December probably looking backwards over what we've accomplished, the people we're sitting around, maybe the changes, the good or bad changes that have happened in our life. And we're looking forward. New Year's is always one of those great times of the year where there's a lot of optimism or future focused thinking. And that's fantastic. But instead of sitting here and talking about resolutions and talking about, the first, 3 weeks at the gym or something like that, I really wanted to bring to you my book review and top, and thoughts on one of my favorite books, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And what better time of the year to bring in Atomic Habits? Like, this is the time of the year where we're trying to implement new habits. We're trying to create a better version of ourselves or improve on different areas of our life. Or maybe it's quitting areas of our life that we're not so happy with. So, without further ado, I'm going to dive into Atomic Habits by James Clear. There's a lot to cover here. This is one of my favorite books. I've listened to it, I've read it, I've reread it. It's just, I've dog-eared it. It's got post-it notes. It's got, margins, things written in it. It is a fantastic tactical book, but we have to look at the top strategies. I don't think I'm going to go into a lot of the tactics of it because I really recommend you go read it for yourself and apply what you can. But this is really about that higher level, like what are the great ideas that James Clear brings into his book. Now, what's awesome is he does a great job of sourcing from all these different places and putting it into one digestible area, which I think makes it such a good book. But it starts with this: the quality of our lives depends on the quality of our habits. This is true. If you implement good habits in your life, you're going to see good results. If you implement bad habits in your life, you're going to see negative results. And that's just how it is. You know, the overarching theme of this book is the concept of 1% better. Now, we talk a lot about, in coaching about our mental wellness, our relationships, our physical, health, our wealth, our careers, our legacy, all of those things that are the different components of our lives. And what impact could 1% better make in each one of those areas? What if there was 1% better in your health? How would you feel tomorrow? I'm sure you'd feel 1% better. What about 1% better in your finances or in your relationships? 1% doesn't seem like much. And this is something I thought was really cool, that if you're a boat and you're heading on a trajectory, and if I change you 1 degree off the mark, right? In 1,000 kilometers, you're going to be well off your mark. And I think there was like this analogy that if you left London going to New York and you changed your heading by 1 degree, you'd end up in Florida. And that's kind of what happens with these 1 degree shifts. Each 1 degree doesn't seem like much, but when you add them together, they become exponential. And that's the power of the atomic habit. That's the power of a habit of compound interest. Like Warren Buffett talks about it in your money. Compound interest is your best friend, but you need time to implement it. Well, best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. So as we go into January and as we're all really motivated and revved up with our resolutions, it's not the goal that matters. It's the habits that we create that will achieve the goal. So one comment he makes in the book, and I love this one, is you do not rise to the level of your goals. Winners and losers both have the same goals. When I read that line, I laughed out loud because he's right. Winners and losers all want to be beautiful, all want to have millions of dollars, all want to have the nice house, the big car, the six-pack abs, all want to have the beautiful family picture. Everybody does, right? Everybody wants the best version of everything. But we don't rise to those goals. Just because we have them, just because we want them, doesn't mean anything. We fall to the level of our training, to the level of our systems. And this is why in the Army, they drill you so hard to establish your training. Your training is what you fall back on in a crisis. Your training is what you fall back on when things get hard. And it's your training and the systems that you have in place that will lead you to success. You can dream all the dreams you want in the world, but they don't make a difference if you don't execute to get there. One of the reasons why habits are so powerful is because it's part of our DNA. 40 to 50% of what we do in any given day is dictated by the habits that we have. So it's like you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you do? You usually go to the washroom. Then what do you do? Right? Think about when you're in autopilot mode in your head. What do you do when you first wake up in the morning? Go to the washroom, brush your teeth, wash your face, comb your hair. Maybe you go work out. Maybe you put on a pot of coffee. Maybe you go outside. Maybe you go back to bed. But what are your habits? And look at through your day, how many of the parts of your day are on autopilot? Those are your default habits. There's a reason we have them. It puts less load on our brain. Having habits actually executes one of our core functions of our brain, which is to reduce effort, right? Our brains are always looking for ways to be more efficient. Therefore, habits are one of those ways that we go into this autopilot mode so our brain can conserve energy, so it doesn't have to exert itself. And that's why it's hard to break habits, and that's why it's the challenge to create new ones, because your brain is going to resist you. So realistically, it's hard to break a habit and it's hard to create a new one. But once you've created them, they're pretty much on autopilot. And I'll take brushing your teeth as an example. We drill that into our children's heads from a very, very young age, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Brush your teeth in the morning, brush your teeth at night. And we are always standing over them watching that happen until they build it as a habit, as a routine, and it becomes automatic for them. And then in your 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it's automatic. You go to bed, you brush your teeth. You wake up, you brush your teeth. And because of that mental load's been reduced, we just automatically do it without thinking. Now, James Clear takes a lot of what he talks about here from The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And Charles Duhigg created, he wrote a book, and this is really the fundamentals of the habit building and how you build a habit. And he uses the 4 kind of stages of the 4 phases of habits, which are cues, cravings, response, and reward. From that, he then establishes Charles Duhigg wrote the book, The Power of Habit. And from that, he basically takes the cues, takes these steps, and then establishes kind of the tactics on how to execute those steps. So if you read The Power of Habit, you're really going to get the psychology behind it all. And then Atomic Habits takes it one step further and teaches you a lot of the tactics that involves itself. So how do you create a good habit? Well, there's 2 phases. One's create a good habit, and the other one is to eliminate a bad habit. And it really is quite simple. When you actually look at it, it's a very simple process. To create both creating a good habit or eliminating a bad habit follow the same 4 protocols. One is the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. So while the cue is the first one, if you're looking to establish a positive habit, you want to make it obvious. So the cue is obvious. It's the ringing of the bells, that Pavlovian response of you ring the bell, the dog salivates because he knows the dinner's coming. Well, what is going to be your cue for a good habit, right? Let's use the toothbrush analogy. When you wake up, you go to the washroom, what's the first thing you see? Your toothbrush. Next is make it attractive. That's for number 2, the craving. So with making it obvious, the cue, you need the craving, which is make it attractive. Then you go to response, which is make it easy. So make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy. And then the final one is make it satisfying. That's the reward. That's why we all do it. And I'll go back to the toothbrush example because I think it's the most basic yet simple and effective way of cueing this. You make it obvious. You wake up in the morning, you see your toothbrush. That cues your brain. Oh, my breath stinks. I've been sleeping all night. I got all that bacteria. I've got morning breath. No one will want to kiss me. Okay, so I should brush my teeth. Make it attractive. Well, I have great toothpaste there. So I put the minty toothpaste on. I brush my teeth. Then at the end, the reward, the satisfying, is the feeling I get, the minty taste, the clean surface of my teeth, that feeling that you get after you brush your teeth. That is a perfect loop of a positive habit that's being reinforced. Now let's look at how you break a bad habit. Well, the first thing is the cue. You have to make it invisible. What's the first thing somebody sees when they open up a cabinet? Is like if you're trying to quit drinking, you might want to put the alcohol away, or you might want to get rid of it entirely, because once you see it, then you're triggering your brain. The second one is the craving. How do you make it unattractive? How do you make this the thing that you're going to be going after unattractive? Well, the thing is that you have to cue it back to the why you're not doing it. So for example, if you're trying to quit smoking, how do you make it unattractive? Well, when people, had to kick you outside in the minus temperatures, that's unattractive. Go outside to just smoke. Or, the smell that you have, like train your brain about, oh, I'm going to stink after. Those are ways to make it unattractive. So you start to program your brain. The third one is make it difficult. Well, the more barriers you can put up against your bad habit, the harder it's going to be, and the less your brain's going to want to do it. So remember, our brain's looking constantly to become more efficient. And if you make things harder, it'll just give up. So if you open the fridge, if you're trying to lose weight, you open the fridge and there's a piece of cake there with a fork beside it, you're going to very easily cave to the craving, grab the cake, put it in your mouth, and get that rewarding, satisfying sugar hit. But what if the cake was in the garage fridge, the forks were in the cupboard, and you were on the couch when you have this craving? One, you know that it's out of sight, out of mind. You're not opening your fridge in the kitchen and seeing the cake staring at you. It's in the garage. So it's out of sight, out of mind. Next, it's unattractive. Now I have to go outside. I got to open the garage. I got to go in there. I got to grab the cake. Then it's difficult. So that's the unattractive part, the difficulty of getting to it. And so the satisfaction just loses, it loses its satisfaction. It becomes unsatisfying. And these are the different techniques, how you can reinforce eliminating a bad habit. So basically, a habit's something that you repeat over and over and over again until it hits. One of the biggest questions is, how long does it take to form a habit? Everyone goes anywhere from 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, but it really is about the repetitions. How many times do you repeat something until it sticks? And I think that's different for everybody, right? So it's what works for you, and what you got to figure out what works for you. So what's the first step to creating habits? And it really revolves around awareness. Awareness and going around and seeing first what you're doing, because it's different for everybody. So it takes a little bit of time before you implement change. The first thing you need to do is an audit. You need to audit what you're doing. You need to become aware of what your habits are. So just like I used the morning routine example, going through your day, depending on your goal, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, we need to see what it is that you're doing right now that's preventing you from getting there. And I think that's where the tracking comes in. So you got to track your habits, and you got to put positive and little pluses signs or negative signs or check marks or X's beside all of the habits that you have, whether they're good, they're bad, or they're neutral. And so the good ones you want to reinforce, and the neutral ones, you can choose to do what you want with them. And then the negative ones, you can choose to see how you're going to combat those. So the first thing is what you see, right? And we talked about this too. It's what you see or what you don't see triggers the cue. So that's a really important one, right? So a lot of times for people going to the gym, if you put your running shoes right somewhere where you can see them, it triggers the cue that you need to go to the gym. If it's in the closet, or if it's in the garage or somewhere else that makes it difficult, you're going to reduce your desire to go and do that. Even if it's a good habit, even if you know on the other side of it, you're going to feel good, because you're creating roadblocks. Same thing with the negatives, the alcohol, the cigarettes, the treats. If you have it easily available, If it's easier to grab the piece of cake in the fridge than it is to put on your runners, odds are pretty good you're not going to work out and you're going to eat the cake. So being able to identify when that happens is really important. Another thing for the awareness piece and for the becoming aware of your habits, let's go something a little bit more abstract, like anxiety, right? It's easy to, I think the weight loss one or the quitting a bad habit is the easy one because it's so obvious. But let's go with something like anxiety. Well, do you know when you feel anxious? Do you know when that feeling comes up for you during the day? Is it when you first wake up? Is it your first interaction with somebody? Is it before a cup of coffee, after a cup of coffee? And then what do you do when you feel that anxiety, when you feel that pressure? Where do you go and take deep breaths and meditate, or do you open up a beer? So it's really important to start creating the awareness. And the awareness part, once you start to see things, it's hard to unsee them. And then from there, you can start to break or create new habits. There's a feedback loop here. So we have to make it attractive, right? So the first part was the cue, right? How you see something. But the second part is making it attractive, right? That's the second piece that we're always looking at. So it's the craving part. Whether it's to make it attractive or unattractive is the second one. So it's trying to reprogram finding the bad habits really unattractive and then reinforcing the good ones. And this is, I think, where it takes a lot of that work. It takes a lot of that, I would say, convincing in some sets, or putting in kind of a really simple reward system. James Clear talks about temptation bundling. It kind of goes with his habit stacking, where it's every good habit you have, you add another habit, add another habit. Well, the same thing with the temptation bundling. You want to put something attractive at the end of a good habit to reinforce the good habit. And then you want to put something unattractive at the end of a bad habit in order to make it less attractive. A swear jar is a perfect example, right? So anytime you swear, you put $1 or $5 in the swear jar. Well, that hurts you in your pocket in another area of your life that you want because of a behavior and action that you're trying to put in. And so for a positive one could be at the end of 7 days of a streak of workouts, you reward yourself with a massage, a full body massage or a facial, or whatever is something positive that you really look forward to. All right. So these are the feedback loops that go with the awareness and to make it appealing, make it attractive. How do I get myself excited to go do this? Right. Maybe it's you do 5 days in a row at the gym, you go see a movie, right? You go see your favorite movie. Now, the third one is the third rule he brings up is making it easy, right? You want to make the good habits easy and you want to make the bad habits hard, right? You want to create resistance because there's already resistance to creating a new habit, right? So you have to make it as easy as possible. And that's where the habit stacking comes in. That's where it's about doing small little reps over and over and over again and then building from there. So making it easy is priming your environment and reducing the friction. Those are the two major points, right? So you want to create an environment that makes it easy to go do what you want to do. So if it's going to the gym, how do you create an environment that's easy for that? Is it blocking off the time? Is it waking up with your gym clothes on? What is it for you that's going to work that way? And then to reduce the friction. And then the other one is building the small habit towards it. I heard Tony Robbins say this a while back, where he basically was saying that if you wanted to go work out, the biggest jump you can ask for a person who doesn't work out is to go from sitting on the couch to go to the gym and work out. And he was recommending that you don't go to the gym to work out for the first 7-10 days. All you do is get up, go to the gym, and go to the sauna, right? It's good for you. It's a 1% improvement, much like what James Clear says here. And that's it. You go to the gym, you hit the sauna. What habit are you creating there? You're creating one habit, which is just get up and go to the gym. Put yourself in the environment, right? Prime the environment. Then once you're there, you do a low effort, low ask, like a small ask. And then you come out and you start feeling good. So it's a couple of minutes in the sauna, feel good, take a cold shower or, lukewarm, and then go home. That's an accomplishment. That is your first step. Once you've built that habit of going to the gym, going to the sauna, then you can layer in the next one, which is maybe I go walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. And those are the stackings of habits. That's the habit stacking that James Clear talks about. And this is priming the environment. So you want to start by making things short. You don't want to dive in head first into a hard challenge. You want to start with small steps, which is why the awareness piece is so important to create. Because if you are a person who already goes and walks 5 kilometers a day, well, the next challenge for you might be to do something different than that, right? It might be for you, for me, my example is that I play tennis and I don't have a problem doing that. It's the going and lifting weights. Well, that's my habit that I'm trying to implement is how do I go lift weights more often? How do I go get myself in that environment to go do it? So reducing the friction is about in your mind, making sure that it's short. It's short and it's accessible and it's easy and it has a feedback loop. The 2-minute rule is something he brings up as a tactic. So anything you do, at first you can just do it for 2 minutes just to get it started. Just get the thing lubricated, right? And move it forward. And then you move from very easy and you crank it up until it becomes hard. And that, because what we're trying to establish isn't the working out, it's the habit of working out, or it's the habit of saving money, or it's the habit of doing what you're trying to do. So number 4 rule is to make it satisfying. And this is really one of the most important keys because it is a positive or negative feedback loop that our brain responds to. We are creatures of habit. We said before, 40 to 50% of what we do in a day is a habit-driven exercise. So by making it satisfying, there have to be rewards for the good habits, and there has to be a negative for the bad habits. You have to kind of be punished for doing the negative things and be rewarded for doing the good things. Otherwise, you will give up. So one of the things he says is track your habits. Tracking your habits is great, right? Keeping a streak alive. Who doesn't love a goal scoring streak or a touchdown streak or a hitting streak, right? We all love streaks. We all love to see how far we can go. But what happens there is that anytime we bust a streak or break a streak, we can get demotivated, which is, another tactic he has is never miss twice. So if you miss once, just get right back on the horse and start another streak right away before you have time to start feeling negative. The other component, which is huge, 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 huge for establishing a good habit or establishing a new protocol or doing something different, is accountability. This is something that everybody talks about, and it's the most critical part of success for any goal. It's being accountable and doing it with somebody else. So if you're trying to do something really, really challenging, you need to be able to express it, tell people around you that you're doing it, and have someone hold you accountable. Have a check-in partner. That's why all these different apps are fantastic. Like today, I was just talking with a friend about a new protocol, and we were going to join the Habit Share together. There's an app called Habit Share. There's an app called Habit, right? There's all these different ones where you can track yours, link your friends, check in with each other. One of the most successful running groups I'd ever been in was a group of friends down here in Orange County, and we were all training for a 5K, or no, I think it's 10K. And there was 5 or 6 of us. One of us would go for a run, tag the other person. The other person would have to go for a run within 24 hours, or they would have to put $10 in a pot. And then it wasn't even about the money after a while. It was just about getting to tag the next person. So gamifying it, making it exciting, making it fun, make it satisfying. Those are really important parts to establishing that habit and reinforcing that positive habit. And then he kind of goes into some of the things to avoid, things that will trip us up. It's motivation. Everyone's looking for motivation. Motivation is fleeting. Motivation is not going to get us to our goal. Motivation is basically something that gets us going, but it doesn't take us to the end. Because we're going to encounter resistance. We're going to encounter periods of either boredom or extreme difficulty. And what we're trying to do is balance between being bored and being too hard. And he calls that the Goldilocks room between, boredom, failure, like something being too hard where you're going to fail at it, or something being too easy where you're bored at it. And he calls it the Goldilocks, which is also known as a flow state, and putting yourself in this place where it's just just challenging enough to push you, but not so hard that you're going to give up. And so I think those are more advanced as you get into it and as you're trying to go through it. But to really keep it simple, it's really about establishing those small 1% improvements and doing it not in isolation, but within a group. So finding areas that you want to work on and then finding people who are going to work on it with you on their own. So, running a marathon is a great example. A lot of people want to go run a marathon for the first time, maybe in 2024. That's your resolution or that's your goal to run a marathon. Well, yes, one of the important things is to see, well, how much can you run right now? What do you need to close the gap so you can run a marathon? But then the other one is to go find that group, that running group, or that other group that also is trying to do the same thing, and how to hold yourselves accountable. That's where the success lies. So in this book, there are so many stories, so many tips and tricks, so many all the things. But I hope that I was able to really distill it down for you into the 4 major components of the habit, which is, the 4 Qs: cue, craving, response, reward, right? Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying, right? And if you're trying to cut a bad habit, make it invisible, get it out of your life, make it unattractive. Maybe put some Tabasco in the, cover the cake in Tabasco, or right? Make it difficult. Put it away. Put it somewhere so hard to get that you're going to be too lazy to get it. One of my favorite lines, it just reeks of effort. This is just too much effort for me to bother with, right? And then make it unsatisfying, right? When you fail at something, or when you crack at something, tell somebody. Make it unsatisfying. Tell that accountability partner of yours, yeah, I didn't get that workout in today. Okay, well, how do we do it so we can get you there tomorrow, right? So those are really all the best nuggets from Atomic Habits, James Clear. I highly recommend you guys pick up a copy. I have the audiobook, I have the physical book. Like I said, it's just marked up. Love it. Reread it all the time that you're trying to go and build something new. And if you need help with accountability or execution, reach out to me. I'm a coach. This is what I do. I help to get you through those challenging habits, those challenging goals that you're trying to accomplish for yourself. This year, I have a lot of exciting things happening in the podcast. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be going into kind of a first quarter, grab your opportunities type of themes. We're going to be talking about resumes. We're going to be talking about networking. We're talking about interviews. We're going to talk about confidence, leadership, communication. A lot of great stuff if you're looking to up-level your career, if you're looking to change jobs, if you're looking to pivot, right, in your life on that side. And then, in the second half of the year, I'm going to be doing a lot on stress, a lot on burnout, a lot on overwhelm. So, we have different phases and different seasons in our life, and I'm hoping I'm going to be tackling a lot of the different things. If there's anything that you as the listener would love to hear, I'd love to hear from you. So email me, reach out. I'd love to have a curiosity call with any of you if you're curious about how I can help you to achieve your goals. And then stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of great experts. So this is going to be a fun year, 2024. Wish everybody all the best, and we will talk to you all next week on Tools for the Modern Man podcast.